Welcome to Real Flix Reviews. We're like a book club for people who hate reading. This month doing grab bags, we picked the movie Real Genius with Val Kilmer and Justified Season 1, Episode 1. This week we have Jonathan Charney, James Stevens,
Hello.
and Ryan Preston. So here's a description of Real Genius 1985. Teenage geniuses deal with their abilities while developing a higher-powered laser for a university project. When the professor intends to turn their work into a military weapon, they decide to ruin his plans, which is pretty much the best synopsis IMDb's ever had.
Yeah.
I would say this is, in my humble opinion, okay, maybe not so humble.
Humble opinion?
I actually think this is one of the best movies out of the 80s in this genre.
There were a shit ton of comedy college movies.
Yeah. I mean, you got kind of like, well, yeah, we'll get into it.
And it did have Val Kilmer, who later on became, for a while, I think he was one of the top billed actors.
He was. For quite a while, actually.
And so, no, I love this movie. It's definitely a movie that has a lot of shenanigans. They have a lot of smart people in the characters, but they don't really talk down to anybody, which is one of the things I think I love about this movie the most, is it's just entertaining. I can never remember that kid, the foil of everybody's.
Oh.
I can never remember his name in this movie. Kent. I don't remember his real name,
Right.
but that guy played the perfect guy you love to hate. Kind of the typical 80s bad guy, snobby, thought he was better than everybody.
Yeah.
All of the nerds actually played a very good. I mean, they're all actually good character actors in their own right. Most of them went on to have a pretty damn good careers.
Yeah.
But they all portrayed that act real well.
And the guy, my favorite part of this, because I always thought it was just out of left field, was the Laszlo guy, where he had that what was it? That that ride down to his bedroom in the middle of nowhere.
That's the
from
thing
in a
that kind of
closet.
I thought was funny is that he kind of had a discussion with Val Kilmer had a discussion with the kid about. He's not in there to wear your clothes. He won't fit him. But how the hell did he fit in the little tiny ass clown car on the ride down to his little thing? I mean, because the kid could barely fit in that thing.
Right?
Like the logistics of this don't work.
That was
It's
the
supposed
best.
to be a smart movie.
That was the best gag, in my opinion.
It was.
I'm trying to see how tall the guy is, but I don't see
He's
anything
gotta be
listed.
like 6'something", 6'3".
And I love
You could shoot something low and make them look tall.
Well, I mean, Val Kilmer's not that tall either, so
Yeah, and I don't know. I keep thinking there's just so much about this movie that I enjoy, and it's a really simple movie. I mean, there's almost no plot to it. Everybody's kind of an archetypal nerd character.
Yeah.
The professors.
Well, you know what? Here's the thing about that. Everything is simple, except it's not. They did this simple college comedy movie and did way more than their due diligence when it came to all the science.
Oh yeah.
It's weird. Like one, I'm an idiot, so I can't even speak to even any of the jargon that was being bandied about. But as much as this movie's been discussed over the years, Mythbusters, testing shit, the only thing that seemed to be obviously over the top ridiculous was the popcorn. But aside from that, everything else seemed to track with 1985 technology.
Yeah.
There's one scene in this movie where they test the new laser that Val Kilmer developed while preparing for Harry Carey. I really want to. I wish I knew somebody who was like intelligent enough to understand what he said, because he was talking about how this field couples to this and does that. It's a really well done scene, and the whole time thinking, okay, what's that?
By all accounts, once the director pretty much got involved with everything, I mean, she went to work, going to Caltech and learning as much about the laser programs and everything that she could.
Interesting. And Kent's real name is Robert Prescott. That's who I was looking for. Because he's literally one of my favorite 80s bad guys, just because he's one of these guys you want to punch in the mouth, but yet they got him talking to himself.
Yeah, that was pretty.
A lot of this movie is what I call it, just because I watched it a lot as a kid. So I'm giving it a 5 out of 5. A lot of it is because how much I enjoyed it when I was younger. I don't think it ages great, but it's still a fun movie in my opinion. So this is a solid 5 out of 5. If I didn't throw in how much I enjoyed factor, you could probably go with a 3.5 to 4.
All right.
But I got to give in the entertainment factor to me. This,
Okay.
to me, this is like, the Goonies type of thing. You got to throw in a love factor to it.
I can see that. The guy that played Laszlo is actually only 5'11". Like I said, Val Kilmer is not tall.
No.
And I think he was like 20 when they did this film. I think he was around 20 years old. Actually, I'll probably look that up since he did in 1985. Anyways, yeah. I mean, he was like 26. Anyways, so I enjoy the film. I don't think it's like my favorite one out of the 80s. It's up there, but I mean, I kind of like look at it. There was like Caddyshack. There was Revenge of the Nerds was coming out around the same time. Actually, the first one came out in 1984.
But the original Caddyshack?
No,
Oh.
Revenge of the Nerds.
Okay,
Caddyshack
yeah.
came out.
Revenge of the Nerds,
When did Caddyshack come out, Ryan? Do you remember? Wasn't it
Oh,
80s?
shit, Caddyshack.
like early 80s?
No,
Might have been
80.
late 80s, maybe 88 something.
Caddyshack came out in 1980.
Oh, 19. Yep.
Oh, really? Was it that
Caddyshack,
early? Okay.
Caddyshack 2 came out in 88. And
Which
that's
was
the
a
one with-
horrible one. Don't
Oh.
bother with Caddyshack 2.
There's parts of it that are funny,
Okay.
but generally I'd say the first one is better.
Yeah, the first one's really good. I knew it came out in the early 80s. I didn't think it came out in 1980. But anyways, yeah, there was a lot of good
Yeah,
characters
Revenge
in
of
this.
the Nerds. Yeah.
The most amazing thing about Revenge of the Nerds, it never made any money.
No, it didn't. Not until it got released in VHS and people started buying it up, kind of like with Boondock Saints. Kind of became an underground
this movie-
classic.
Well, Boondock
Even
Saints...
this movie became kind of a cult classic.
It
after a
did
while.
too.
Well, Boondock Saints' biggest sin is you couldn't get it anywhere but Blockbuster
That's
for
true.
a long time.
That is true. But I actually like the main characters. I like Jordan. I like Mitch, Chris, and obviously Laszlo. But
Jordan was the chick who was on like Speed, right?
yeah,
I always thought she was funny.
Yeah,
I
she
always
was
wondered how that chick pulled that off. Because you're reading, you have to recite the lines like double time. And I
Oh, yeah.
wouldn't be surprised if she got more lines than anybody in that movie.
Oh, I bet she did. But she did a great job for the role they gave her. But I don't think that gets any more than like a 3.5. I mean, there's some nostalgia for me that it's still kind of amusing to look back at kind of the things in the 80s and be like, oh, yeah, I remember that crap. I'm glad it's gone.
Well, to me, it's like watching Iron Eagle, and you're like, yes, that's an
Oh,
awesome
yeah.
movie. And then when you watch it over again, you're thinking,
Can I
okay,
kill
this movie
myself?
is completely preposterous, but it's entertaining.
Yeah. I mean, that's kind of the thing about it is there is a lot of entertainment factor to it. So,
Ryan?
Yeah. I initially was actually going to go 3.5, but I got to give it a 4 because really the only thing that doesn't hold up is maybe some of the 80s pacing where, it takes forever to get to act 2 kind of shit. And you dine out sort of scene by scene on just the banter from Val Kilmer,
Yeah.
which more or less holds the movie together, even though the supporting cast was pretty badass. The soundtrack wasn't annoying.
I didn't think it was...
It was a...
Sorry, I wouldn't say... I also don't think the soundtrack was as present as it is in a lot of 80s
Oh, no.
movies.
No.
Right, yeah, there was a little bit of, like synth and things, and, but hey, whatever. It's sort of to be expected from the time, but it didn't go over the top, being over-stylized. It told its story well,
And I actually like the fact, because a lot of 80s movies were in your face with a new wave, with the synth pop. I actually thought they balanced it really well with this without it being over the top, because this movie was already over the top. So I think it would have made it very cartoony even more than it was if they had just this insane soundtrack.
I got to interrupt both of you for a second. Holy shit. Ryan, did you know Stacy Peralta was in this? The skater.
Yeah, he was the pilot in the beginning.
Yeah. I just found that. I was like going through. I was trying to find one of the actors, and I realized Stacy Peralta, and I was like, wait a minute. Holy
Yep.
shit. Wow.
I spotted his name in the credits. I'm like, what?
Yeah, if you guys out there watching don't know who Stacy Peralta is, go look up Dogtown and Z-Boys and get educated.
For real.
So, wow.
I do got to
Wow.
definitely say with Ryan. So
Yeah,
this
and
mo-
also check out Writing Giants. He was responsible for that one, too.
Yeah, yeah.
some of my all-time favorite lines, period, are in this movie. Like there's a part with Chris Knight, Val Kilmer's character, sitting on a roof, after his laser kind of exploded. Spoiler alert. And he's sitting there talking to Mitch, and Mitch asks him what's up. He's like, I'm thinking of the immortal words of Plato. I drank what? I mean, that line, and I've used that line, by the way, in full-on conversations, and you can tell who the geeks are, and they're like, oh, I love that movie. Val Kilmer carries this movie 100%. The supporting cast is amazing, but I really do think without Val Kilmer, this movie just would not be as good.
You know, I gotta say,
it's why the movie's funny.
Yeah, completely. Because everybody else kind of plays it straight, and then you have Val Kilmer's character who's kind of like a retread type of character who somehow still manages to keep it together enough to pass everything.
I gotta say, I mean, Val Kilmer at this time of his life was a really great actor, and he still is a great actor. If you guys haven't followed him, I mean, Kiss Kiss Bang Bang, come on.
Actually, there's a movie he did, I think, before this or during the same time. It's called Secret or something.
Oh, yeah.
There was another good one.
And Salton Sea's pretty weird, but he still does a decent job.
Oh, another really good line. I'm sorry. This one just made me laugh. You see, Mitch, I used to be you, and lately I've been missing me. So I asked Dr. Hathaway if I could room with me again, and he said, sure.
Yeah.
I just think these lines that you're going, and he delivers them so fast.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Well, I mean, like James said, dude, I mean, Val Kilmer's such a beast, man. You know, like almost underrated for
very
how many
underrated,
amazing roles he's done.
Yeah, and I don't blame him for the Batman.
I think if you want...
Wasn't
it
fine.
Batman and Robin?
That was whatever.
He did too.
No, that was Batman Forever.
Oh,
right?
yeah.
Oh God.
And honestly, I can't blame him because he's picking up a paycheck. But if you take a look at this movie, and I think it's Secret something he did, you take a look at that, and then Tombstone. You
Are you
see,
thinking Top Secret?
That's it. Thank you. I couldn't remember the beginning, but just because he
But
did.
I mean, you know, with between Heat, Tombstone, I mean, Top Gun, freaking Willow, Salton Sea. I mean, the dude's been in some amazing movies.
Well, I just meant his range, because not all actors can pull off a decent job in comedies, and then you pull off action movies. I would say Top Secret and Real Genius, I think these characters are similar a little bit, at least the way he played it. But I love Val Kilmer. To this day, he's still one of my favorite actors, along with Michael Ironside.
Yeah, for sure.
Even though, obviously, Val Kilmer's a better actor.
Yeah, Val Kilmer is a really good actor, and I do gotta say, I mean, like he's got a really he's done quite a lot of stuff, but I mean, the things that he's actually done that really made it, like I mean, like I mentioned, Kiss Kiss Bang Bang. Have we done that one?
Yes.
Yes, I thought so.
Yes, we did.
That's a really great one to go back and watch. But he does have some pretty shitty ones. I mean, The Saint was okay, but it was trying to be something else that it shouldn't have been.
The Saint?
Yeah.
The biggest problem with The Saint
and then The Traveler. If you guys haven't seen that one, don't watch it.
The biggest problem with The Saint is The Saint was based off, if I remember correctly, a 60s TV show.
I think it was a book, wasn't it? Ryan, was that a book?
It was a TV show.
Was it a TV show?
I think it was also an old-time radio play, a drama.
Okay, that must be what I'm thinking of.
But the problem with it is it's context that not a whole lot of people, even at the time it came out, remembered.
Yeah.
So that was the biggest problem. And you also had kind of the 90s sensibility about it where they tried to be... Did it come out in or near Mission Impossible?
The Saint?
Yeah.
It came out in 97. I think that was before Mission Impossible.
Because
Mission Impossible was like 94 or something.
Really?
Because to me, if I remember correctly, it had kind of a Mission Impossible-esque feel to it. Granted, it's the same basic thing.
Actually, no. It came out in 96. So, like, the year before.
Oh.
Because
I thought it was 98.
The Saint really had kind of a Mission Impossible, spy-esque.
Well, it kind of was like it wanted to
be.
Well,
the only reason that movie was even
yeah.
watchable was Val Kilmer.
Oh yeah.
Anyways, so we're just going on a Val Kilmer stroke around. So I think he did a fantastic job in this film. This is really early in his career. He was, like I said, I think he was like, 27, 26 when he did this. And I mean, he played that character really, really well. It was, like you said, it was a fun movie. I don't know. I think there's too many comedies that I really liked higher up than this one for the era, because it was 80s, the early 80s up until the late 80s was like, it was flooded with comedies all over the place.
See, to me, this is my favorite type of comedy. You've got this. You've got, was it Shoot 'em Up? You got comedies that
Shoot 'em Up wasn't from the 80s.
No, I meant like comedy styling.
Oh.
I like it because it's not because if you
say
watch
way different things.
if you watch
That's such a random movie to bring up.
All right.
well, I meant just because it has a story and comedies in it, and it is a comedy, but they have other things to tie it in to make it a better movie.
Okay.
If you watch comedies nowadays, they try to do gag, and it just sucks. They just throw everything at you, and it's not good.
Yeah.
You know, you've got this that had decent pacing. Parts of it are slow. I think the introduction of Mitch, well, I think it was the perfect pacing at the time. I think it's a little slow now.
Well, I think for this came out. What did we say? 85.
Yeah, 84,
So
85.
I think it was 85. Anyways, but you're coming off the back of some of the greatest comedy duos ever. You got Richard Pryor, Gene Wilder, Mel Brooks. You got all that stuff that was coming out in the 70s, early 80s. This one kind of gets lost in the shuffle.
Well, it didn't make dick at the box office. It made like $15 million or something.
Well, John Candy was still alive. You even had I just had a complete brain fart as to what, there was other comedy guys coming out around the same time. So, I mean,
those movies, this movie, if I remember
Spaceballs
correctly,
86?
this movie I think was geared towards young adults, teenagers, versus the movies you named I aimed at everybody.
87.
But no, I agree. There was a ton of good comedies that were coming out that were quality. No, I completely agree. And I give this movie, still a 5 out of 5. It's still one of my all-time favorite movies. If it's on TV, I'll always watch it.
I'll watch parts of it. I'll see where they're at. And
still, it was Val Kilmer. To me, he's the soul of this movie. Mitch Taylor, that character,
Gabrielle
Jordan, all those people, they did a great job. But hands down, I watched this movie for Val Kilmer.
Yeah. Even Honey, I Shrunk the Kids was coming out on this time too. So, I'm gonna stick it at 3.5. Like I said, I mean, as far as I'm concerned, there was a lot of really great comedies that came out around the same time, and this is one that I would have people watch, so that's why it gets an extra 0.5. But I think as far as the comedies for its time, it's only. Yeah. Yeah,
and definitely one that if you hadn't seen it, if you did sort of miss it at the time. I mean, shit, I was born that year, so of course I missed it at the time. But if you haven't seen it, it's definitely worth a watch. You're not going to get like, the 80s. It's actually a really good movie.
Yeah, if you want to see like, the 80s, watch Honey, I Shrunk the Kids.
So what's your rating? It's going to stick with a 4, Ryan?
Yeah, definitely.
Okay.
Yeah.
We're going to switch. Ladies and gentlemen, we do have a Facebook page. Go to facebook.com/RealFlixReviews. Do you have a movie you want us to do, or even some movie news that you're interested in or take in? Let us know. You can also catch us on Podbean, iTunes, Stitcher, and more. We're going to switch over to the TV show of this week, which was Justified Season 1, Episode 1. And James, you're up.
Yeah, this is actually one of my favorite shows of all time. Is Justified. I mean, you got some really great actors that were basically the stars of the show. I mean, you got Timothy Olyphant, which, I mean, this show is really where he shows his acting chops.
He's still, in my opinion, one of the most underrated actors.
He is.
Come on, dude. He showed his acting chops in Hitman.
He did, he's the only really good Hitman, by the way.
The biggest problem with the
Hold
movie...
on a second. Don't let anybody think that I was being serious right then.
No, I'm saying that for the Hitman series, he was the best Hitman.
Yeah, for the movies,
Just saying.
For the movies, he was the best Hitman. The problem,
I wasn't
D+
talking about the
that
movie.
He was as a Hitman.
Yeah.
The D+ that he was as a Hitman was better than the Fs that everybody else was.
the problem was the movie sucked.
Yeah.
It's one of those video games that somehow it loses in translation.
But let's just get off the Hitman thing and back to the show. I mean, you even got where the hell is he? You got Walter Goggins. I mean, this dude came from The Shield. Have we done The Shield for the show?
I think we've done an episode of it.
But he was the co-star in The Shield, and then he also played a drag queen on Sons of Anarchy.
To say.
This dude is an amazing actor. He nails this role the entire series. I mean, it's amazing.
I love the opening
Yeah.
of this episode because the Timothy Oliphant's kind of wearing like a Miami Vice uniform with a hat,
Yeah.
and literally with like the first 5 minutes he kills somebody.
Oh no,
It's
it's not even 5 minutes. I think it's like 3 minutes.
It's a
Yeah,
hell.
I think he gave him 10 seconds.
And I've seen a couple episodes, and it seriously sets the pacing for the first episode and pretty much the whole series from
Yeah.
everything I've read.
Well, it sets the most important character part of his character up, where you're like, oh, this guy is not about giving any shit whatsoever. You
And
know,
he's
like so it informs your expectations for all of his interactions with people.
As his
Yeah.
ex-wife said, "You're the most angriest person I've ever known."
You got nothing. I mean, like this show's an amazing show, and I mean, like watching this, I finished the show like I think it stopped like 2 years ago is when they actually did the series finale, which I'm so happy they ended it because if they had dragged it on for a couple more years, I think the show would have gone really downhill.
It ended when it needed to, for
yeah,
sure.
you got this guy. I haven't seen him in much else. His name is Damon Harriman, who played Dewey Crow. He's the guy that with the shotgun. That's like,
yeah.
I just put a scatter gun up to your face, and you haven't. It's like you gotta rack around. You think you can do that before I draw?
I
But
love
Dewey
that
Crow,
line.
amazing actor, and even he does a role change a couple times in the show of kind of being good guy you love to hate, and all this. Fantastic actor.
I love.
Well, listen, a lot of them do little role changes, role
Yeah.
reversals
I
Yeah.
love.
throughout, and it's just it's a masterclass of acting in that show.
I love the line before that scene you're talking, or that when he says, if I pull my gun, you're gonna die.
Oh, yeah.
To heavily paraphrase,
Yeah, he's
And
like,
that's-
if I draw, I draw to kill.
and that's why. And then
But,
he says,
you know,
"Would you mind
it-
racking around before I kill you?"
It's a flat out modern day Clint Eastwood Western.
Yeah,
That's what you're watching. You're watching the man in black come into town, the man with no name, except everybody knows him because that's where he's from, which is a great little trope to throw in there.
It's like Cheers, and I love the fact there's not a lot of modern day sensibility to it. That's like you. Excuse me. Watching the first episode, you can really tell that it's just like Ryan said. It's a modern day Western.
Ryan picked this one, and I almost kind of like argued with him on it because, as far as I'm concerned, my favorite season is like season 3 or 4, and they really get into how boondocky this place still is, and it's in the backwoods of Kentucky is where it takes place, and it's like Appalachian Mountains type family folk.
The sheriff even says it because there's a line. This like it's a younger marshal, and the guy kind of reminds me of like some New York guy.
That guy.
And then he says, she lives here, but we can't find it. And the sheriff or marshal, whatever he is, says, "Oh, I guess it's something that hasn't put on a fucking GPS or something like that." And Timothy
it's not on the
Oliphant
Google Maps or anything.
Timothy Oliphant looks it up. So like,
Oliphant.
oh, I know exactly where this is.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like we live up in the back area of Northern California, and there's still places that they're like, you got to turn at this oak tree. When you see the rock, you make a left.
Right. There's a stack of tires. You want to turn there.
Yeah, but you got to slow down from like 50 miles per hour to 10 because that's a serious turn.
Like, I seriously know people that can't drive by street names, but give them redneck directions, they'll be there.
Yeah.
Like, turn by the Blue
Right.
Rock by the fast road where Jim hurt himself that one time. Like,
Yeah.
what? What? Where's the context in this conversation?
Yeah. And pay attention to the hubcaps on the side of the road. That's where you got to slow down.
Little Jimmy learned his lesson.
But yeah, I mean, I really love this show. It's one of my favorite ones. As Ryan said, it's a master
really
class
cool.
of acting.
And
It's just a cool ass show, man. It's just cool as shit.
Yeah.
And the other scene in this movie I really loved was just this one scene. He snuck into his ex-wife's house, and her husband just like, and she walks out and said, "You almost gave him a heart attack," and he kind of smiles. It's just such a, oh God, just such an amazing television show. I haven't watched the whole season. I've probably watched a handful of them just because I don't have a whole lot of time.
Yeah. But it's a show that's worth watching. I recommend it to everybody. I one of my favorites.
Now, next week is James's pick, so let's hope it's something good, or my wife might actually murder him.
So, oh man, now I can't pick this one. Damn. Okay, so we discussed last week that Powers Booth passed away, and I'm kind of going with this one because we talked about him, and we also just did one of Val Kilmer. We're gonna go to one where the guy who never ages, Sam Elliott and Kurt Russell, Val Kilmer in Tombstone.
Nice. That's funny. I was actually going to suggest that today because one of my all-time favorite lines in that movie. I'll be your Huckleberry.
Yep.
Such a
And that's
great-
become a meme these days.
Oh, I remember when at this point I'm so old. I'm thinking, I remember when memes didn't exist. I'm one step away from telling people to get off my lawn.
That's a meme too with Clint Eastwood.
This is true. Ladies and gentlemen, next week we're watching Tombstone. Do we have a TV show?
Yes, we do. It's a Netflix original. It is called Castlevania.
Sweet. And that's after the video game, right?
Yes, as far as I know, I that's the rumors I'm going with.
So, ladies and gentlemen, I gave Real Genius a 5. James gave it a 3.5. Ryan gave it a 4. Next week we are doing Tombstone, a very classic movie with Val Kilmer, and you'll find out also Netflix original Castlevania. And for Jonathan Charney, James Stevens, and Ryan Preston, thank you for watching, listening. You got it.